Hey, ladies, welcome to week 2. We're so excited that you are here and we are ready to dive in deep into these chapters. I know Kayla and I have really been digging deep into the chapters ourselves. I've re listened to them and read them and highlighted my book like it was the end of the world. So I know how excited I am about these chapters. So I'm going to turn it over immediately to Kayla and she's going to just jump right into the questions.
Okay, so being that we are on chapter 3 and 4, chapter 3, I know that this hit home, and I will say that it hit home more than once for me. I have reread this chapter, re-listened to it numerous of times, but it is called A Fight Worth Fighting. And there was quite a few questions for this chapter, but I want to just go over um, question number 4, which says, God isn't as concerned with what we are doing as he is with how we are doing it. In what ways can keeping this in mind help us overcome a perfectionistic, performance-based mindset and remember the purpose behind our pursuits in life? And I will say, like I said before, that this chapter really did hit home. Like, it really hit hard, at least for me. So I want to know what you guys think about the question that I just went over. Like, what ways are you overcoming that mentality, like you have to be perfect, or you have to have this perfect mindset?
All right, I'm going to unmute you guys in case you want to speak up.
Okay, so I'll just do that. I love how she puts everything, so far, like when I've read it in the book, and she really makes you think about these questions. So going back to the question that you asked, I feel like just knowing that, how everybody, your house has to be perfect, and with Kelly knowing me, I'm very I'm very OCD and everything has to be perfect. And I feel like if my house isn't clean, or if that's not perfect, then my whole life is array. And if somebody will walk into my house, they're going to think I'm dirty. So the whole idea of just overcoming that perfection isn't what you see. Perfection is what is within.
Right.
So where you feel you have to be, what I've been working on is feeling comfortable and feeling perfection within myself, not having to be perfect on the outside for everybody else to see. It's not for everybody else to see. I have to be comfortable with myself.
I'm not really probably answering the question because I got interrupted. Well, no, I got interrupted, and so I was trying to listen, but I missed part of it. But I wanted to read something that I had underlined on page 45 at the very beginning of the chapter. This was a prayer that Havilah was pouring out, and it says, God, my hands are so empty. I have nothing to offer you, nothing you can use that is evident to me. And so that hit home for me this past week, because, we all get caught up in all the day-to-day and everything, the hustle and the bustle and everything going so fast that sometimes we feel like we have nothing to offer. And that is completely, us trying to be perfect and, just saying like, we don't have anything for you, but, that at some point later on down in Havilah's life, he was able to prosper her gifts and show her finally, like, no, like, you didn't see these, you didn't know these until like far later in life. And I think like that's where I'm at. Like, we talked a lot about our struggles in our past last week, and we all opened up and talked about things that were really hard, and sometimes it's emotional for us, but it's also kind of empowering to realize like, hey, I'm comfortable enough, I can talk about this. Like, I know that I had a hard time like ever talking about it before many, many years ago, but just really knowing that there's like these things that you just can't overcome, but sometimes it's a matter of taking the time to let God use his gifts and let you get to that point where he wants you to be.
So I would just ask a question. So from us last week, where we spoke about the past issues, great relief that week.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
So how did you guys ladies take that?
Go ahead, Kayla.
I honestly felt, I will say I felt a deeper connection with you guys. I felt like Chastity, like I've known you forever, and we didn't just meet. I also felt like it was like this weight was lifted off of my shoulders.
Absolutely.
Like somebody else somebody else knows, somebody else understands, and I also felt like this overwhelming sense of like it's okay to feel the way you do, and it's okay to express it, because there are, like I said, people that do understand.
And you're not alone.
Exactly. Yes.
I can't speak for Kayla, but it's kind of weird. Like, we do this. We're repeater. One of us is kind of off the wagon, and one of us is kind of a little bit higher on the wagon. I wouldn't say like one is better off than the other, because it's far more likely that we're kind of going through the same things. But it's kind of funny how when she's having a bad day, I'm not. And when I'm having a bad day, she's not, or she's stronger. And I think like that's what I think this book has been so life-saving for us both. And I think, like Kayla had said, I feel like I grew a lot closer to you guys, even the women who weren't on the call, who I know are watching from behind the scenes, who can't tune in, at this time. Like, I know it's still impacting, and for the fact that we were able to show up and talk about things that were really hard, that may have helped somebody, and we don't know that, but I find power in that, knowing that I had the courage and the strength, and I was brave enough to share something that terrified me for a long time to talk about. And I struggled a little bit this week, but it had nothing to do with my past, which I thought was even more empowering, because in previous years, when I talk about this stuff, I was like, oh my God, like, what did I just tell the world? But now it's like, no, like, I'm ready to share. I'm ready to not be afraid and tackle bigger and better things that, actually are only like this big. But
And Veronica, did you get the chance to watch the video from last week?
Yeah, I think she did. She had commented on it, yeah.
What about you, Kelly? Did you get the chance to go back and watch it?
No, I haven't. But
Okay.
I'm getting it all set up now. Like, I just got the book downloaded, so I've got catching up to do. But
I can tell you, Kelly, that I will be reading chapter 3 and 4 all over again. I've highlighted like a lot. Like, I mean, like if you look through my book, I'm looking at it now, like every other page is like half highlighted. But this stuff has been really amazing for all of us, I think, so far. Kayla, did you want to ask another question?
No, I want to jump to two things. First is being page 58. I'm going to reread what it says, because it just, there was two parts on page 58, actually. The first one says, it's at the beginning about, let's read this verse together. It says, the thief comes only in order to steal and kill and destroy. I came that they may have and enjoy life and have it in abundance to the full till it overflows. And then it proceeds to say, God's intention in this verse isn't only to expose our enemy, but also to reveal the wonderment of life. He came to give us a magnificent life, and a life we never could have dreamed of. And I kept rereading that over and over again. That's actually one spot that I have marked in my book, because I think that it holds so much power Like, there's so much more to this life than what we realize sometimes. And we don't realize how good we really have it. And in a minute, like, the devil could come at any time, right? And try to steal that joy, to try and steal and take away our happiness in life. So I thought that was a great reminder of what a magnificent life that we truly do have.
So I wanted to touch base on still in chapter 3, but go back to page 55, where it talks about winning and the real success. They kind of define it in here as real success is living at our best, believing we are God's best version of ourselves. Rather than being disappointed by our personal limitations or operating in failure because we don't happen to be the best in the world, we need to stop comparing ourselves to everyone else. And I know that's like everybody can relate to that. We're always constantly comparing ourselves to everybody. But it says success is not something we achieve. And like, what? Like, that statement alone hit me hard. But it's something that we live within, an attitude we develop. And I think that's what we're all doing, is we're developing attitude of our lives are a success. Like, it's in us already. We just need to like let our journeys, our plans, however you want to look at it, play out. And that's, God has something intended for all of us, and each one of us is, very unique. It says, whatever you do, work from the soul for the Lord and not for the men. And like, again, that hit me really hard, because we're constantly trying to please everybody around us, and yet we're not pleasing the one that we really should, because we're living our lives materialistic, or worshiping money, or worshiping people, or however you want to put it.
Where's those sticky notes?
Yeah. I gotta pull my sticky notes out. Hold on a second. They're in my book. So I shared this before we started the call. I started getting into hand lettering today, and this says, "This is me time." I don't know if you guys can read this very well. And then this one says, "Let your light shine." And the last one is probably what Chastity is talking about. It says, "Love yourself."
Love yourself.
And I think we tend to forget that we are too busy trying to love everybody else, and we aren't loving on ourselves. And I think we need to work towards that. This last line I really want to touch base on. It says, "I'm confident God isn't concerned with what we are doing as he is with how we are doing it." And Kayla,
I was just getting ready to bring that up.
said this to me yesterday or Monday, and I was just in tears, because I was like, oh geez, you're absolutely right. We're doing our best with what God has given us, because we're being ourselves, and we often forget that we are not anybody else. I have this plaque on my desk that says, "Be yourself," because everybody else is taken. And every day I look at it, and every day I just it hits home with me. Kayla, do you want to read what Veronica, or summarize what, I don't know if you want to jump to chapter 4 yet, or we can wait to add that.
We can go and go to chapter 4 if you guys are ready.
Chastity, was there anything else that you wanted to recall or canter from chapter? I mean, there's so much in chapter 3. You could spend like hours doing this.
I feel like we're going to be talking a lot of chapter 3 in the weeks to come, in all honesty.
Oh, yeah.
As questions come up, I think it's going to trigger different things in the book. Chapter 3 was very, very self-centered. I believe. I think a lot of the messages in there were really focused on, taking care of yourself and who you are. And going back to the one thing you were saying at the one of the comments at the end, about, I can't remember. I'm so sorry, but I can't remember exactly the last statement that you made. What was the last quote?
The last quote that I just said in the book that I just read?
Yeah. That you guys were just talking about.
It says, "I'm confident God isn't concerned with what we are doing as he is with how we are doing it."
So I think that's the moral of what you guys have started here. It's not how we go about this. It's not how you're not coming on here to, and I don't, and again, I'm always going to be the devil's advocate to this. Advocate. This is who I am. So, it's not about every single last one of us believing in this moment. It's about what we are doing. And, with us sharing and being a part of a positive role model to people. And I think that's what we're doing versus, how we're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Sitting here preaching, you're not sitting here preaching. It's how you're going about it that's going to make a change and difference. That's it. So.
Thank you.
All right, Kayla.
Okay, so really quick, chapter 4. Give me 1 second. It's an angel with a God complex. And let's see.
I'm going to be all honest. I've only got halfway through chapter 4 because it's been a crazy week. So I'm going to have to catch back up on that on this weekend.
Yeah.
So question 1 was, why is it so crucial to listen closely and pick up on what God is saying to us along the path towards significant and tangible growth?
I know you want to answer that, Chastity. Go for it.
No. Kelly? Oh, is Kelly on mute? No, Kelly's not on mute.
No,
I'm not. I'm slow at thinking. I'm just listening right now. Can you repeat the question? Because there was a lot of big words.
Why is it so critical to listen closely and pick up on what God is saying to us along the path towards significant and tangible growth?
I don't like big words tonight.
So, why is it so important for us to listen closely to what God is saying and to pick up on those important, moments or that He's like, I'm trying to word it, but
slow tonight. I'm tired. I'm sorry. I get it. Like, that's a struggle I've been facing a lot is the push and pull back and forth. But and honestly, listening to the little voice, and it keeps you on track and it keeps you centered, and it pushes you and it helps you to grow. When you hear that voice and you're like, I really don't want to do that.
But you need to do it.
You keep doing it. And then when you do, you realize that's why I do this. But then, when you don't, it still nags you and you feel worse off. And then you eventually just do it. So it keeps you centered, I think, just listening and learning to recognize the voice, the little voice, because it's never loud. It's always quiet. So that's something that I used to be really good at.
I think we got a response from Veronica as well, right?
Yeah, she said it is important to pick up what God is saying to you. He gives you the calling, what you're supposed to do, or what He has stored for you, and keeps you centered.
Yeah, I used to be really good at it, and then I had stopped. I just got caught up in life, walked away, came back, and now I'm over the last year or two, just kind of recentering myself and going, okay, coming home, listening to the voice, coming back, recognizing what it is, and now acting on it constantly. And it's a struggle, but it's made me a better person. And, Chas and I have talked about this on and off over the last several years. So,
absolutely.
Just acknowledging it.
Jump into that question. So I think
go for it.
I think that when looking at those little voices, and I'm going to go at the aspect of just in my mind is what's meant to be. So we're looking at it as we can go back when I read it, when I read that part of the book, I went back to my accident. That maybe that was my little voices of, you're not happy where you're at. Your career has never been your dream. It's made you great success. It's given you many things in life that you wanted. And it's brought you far, but have you ever really been happy? And I think that's a question that I always ignored, because you can't focus on those. You can't focus on those little voices sometimes when bills need to be paid. But I think
That's hard.
It is, and it is. But I think in time, you repetitively hear those things, and when you follow your path that's been wrote for you, I think that you find that eternal happiness. And I think those little voices help you find that.
I mean, Chastity knows over the last couple of years, like she and I worked together, and that's how we came to be best friends. And now, I always said I'd never be a teacher because my mom was a teacher. There's no money in teaching. So I was a single mom for 2.5 years. And then I got married and everything. And we still work together. And then I was like, yep, nope, never teaching. There's still no money in it. I can't do it. I can't afford it. So now I work with 1-year-olds. I don't think you get more humble than working with 1-year-olds ever. It's
but
very
teaching
humbling.
has always been her calling. We can just feel it. Like she's just a teacher.
Yeah. I have never been happier. I mean, I now am working on pursuing a degree in early childhood education because of it. And I feel like this is where I'm supposed to be. It's where I've been supposed to be far longer than I want to admit. But at least she knows me too. I've denied it for many years.
Hey,
Hi, Shay.
Kelly, hello.
Hi, gorgeous.
I just wanted to say
Hey, I'm
hi
Shaylee. Nice to meet you.
to my daughter.
Hi.
But yeah, I mean, it all comes back to that. And probably about 2 weeks ago, I basically just like had just a breakdown moment. And I told God, I was like, listen, I know you're trying to do something greater in me. And I know this is inviting every bit of doom from, Satan ever. But it's like, I'm open, do it, whatever you say on here, I'm going to follow you. And sure enough, like 3 days later, Chastity texts me. She's like, hey, you need to join this group. You need to read this book. This is exactly what we were talking about. You need to do this now. And I was like super sick last week. So I'm like, I can't. I'll be coughing the whole time. No one's going to hear anything. I'll do it next week. So yeah, that's where I'm at. So
We are so glad.
as a little voice. So
We are so glad that you are a part of this group, Kelly. I'm sure Chastity told you all about us and about this group and what it's done for her. So we're just glad that you have decided to join us and join the journey of what's ahead, because we know that God has so much in store for us that we get to share with you guys. And we're going to, like we've said previously, we're going to continue doing the book clubs. I just want to mention really quick, we are about to get kicked off, but we're going to go ahead and do another Zoom call because we still have a lot to cover.
They limit us to 40 minutes. And since we started and then we waited, like our actual talk time got way shorter. So I'm going to try to set another one up. It won't let me until 10 o'clock. So I don't know if any of you guys want to jump back on. If you don't, I totally understand. But if you can join us, I don't know that I can start it any sooner. I will try once I get it started. I'll send you all the link.
I was gonna say, if not, do it like plan it